We will begin Chapter 6 of the geometry text. Chapter 6 is congruent triangles. Congruent triangles. We've already said congruent triangles are the definition of congruent is same size, same shape. So we would say congruent triangles are triangles that are the same size, same shape. So we're going to talk about congruent figures. We're going to talk about congruent triangles. And then we're going to look at in Section 2, ways to prove that two triangles are congruent, some of the ways to prove it. We'll use congruent triangles, find other ways to prove that triangles are congruent, and then we have the odd solutions in the study guide. And then there's the study guide for the first semester exam. Now, as an instructor, you may end up in a different place, or as a student, your instructor may end up in a different place. But my first semester exam, as I was teaching this course, would have covered chapters 1 through 6. And so we will go over that first semester exam review at the end of this study. So here we go to Unit 6.1. Unit 6.1, congruent figures. Congruent, we've already talked about, is same size, same shape. Same size, same shape. So congruent triangles are triangles that are the same size and same shape. The thing that gives them their shape are their angles, and so same shape would mean that all corresponding angles are equal. All corresponding angles are equal. The thing that makes them the same size is the length of their sides. And so from the fact that they're the same size, we can say that all corresponding sides are equal. So congruent triangles are triangles that are the same size and same shape. Incongruent triangles, all of the corresponding sides are equal. That comes from being the same size. And all of the corresponding angles are equal. That comes from being the same shape. Now, when we name congruent figures, we must name corresponding angles, our corresponding parts, our corresponding vertices in order. If we look at the triangles to the right, angle A has one little mark, and angle D has one little mark. That tells us that angle A is equal to angle D. Therefore, angle A must correspond to angle D. Since angle A was named first, we must also put angle D first. Angle B was named second. It has two little arcs. That means to us that it's equal to angle E, which has two little arcs. Since angle B was named in the middle, we must name its corresponding angle in the same position in the middle. Angle C was named last. It had three little arcs. And so angle F, which has three arcs, must be congruent or equal to angle C. Since angle C was named last, its corresponding angle, angle F, would be named last. So when we name congruent triangles, we must name corresponding parts in order. Just by looking at this now, we could actually use that to name the equal angles and equal sides. Color coded, we have that angle A is equal to angle D, which we can see in the color coding, or because they're both named first, but we could also see in the picture. Angle B because it's in the middle is equal to angle E, which is in the middle. We pulled it out of the picture, but if all we had was them named similar, then we could still know what was equal to what. Angle C being named last would indicate to us that it's equal to angle F, which is named last. Now, if we look at only the way they're named similar, and I'll have to put that in there. If it was given that ABC, I'm sorry, congruent, given that angle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF, we could say that AB first two, if you take two letters at a time so you get a side, is equal to DE first two. You see how that's going to work? First two letters of this one makes a side that would correspond to first two letters of that one, which makes a side. So side AB corresponds to side DE, both in the picture and in the way they're named similar. Last two letters BC would make another side. It would go to last two letters EF. We can see that those correspond both in the way they're named similar and in the picture. And first letter, last letter AC would make a side that would correspond to first letter, last letter DF, which would represent its corresponding side. So when you name congruency, you name corresponding parts in order. Any questions on that? If the first one had been called BCA, what would we have had to call the second one? Well, B corresponded to E, so the E would have to be first. C corresponded to F, so the F would have to be next. A corresponded to D, so the D would have to be last. Corresponding parts must be named in order. Any questions on that? Okay. So daily work unit 6-1. Name 6 equations. Well, just by looking at how these are named congruent, we could name 3 pairs of equal angles and 3 pairs of equal sides. Taking one letter at a time, we could get the angles and say that angle A is equal to angle Q. And again, some textbooks use congruent for angles and segments. I use equal because it's given that they're the same shape. We could say that angle J is equal to angle X. There's a couple of the sides. We can get a couple of the angles, and we could get one more pair of angles, right? And then if we name some sides, we could use 2 letters here, AJ, 2 letters here, XQ, AJ, side AJ is equal to side QX. Side AJ, first 2 letters, is equal to side QX, first 2 letters. AP is a side, last 2 letters. It's equal to the side QF, last 2 letters. And you can get the rest of them there. Another angle and another side. I should have put the angles 1, 2, 3, but that's okay. Okay? Making the assumption that the 2 triangles we see here are congruent, then we could say that angle R, we can obviously visualize, is equal to angle Z. On this one, it's pretty obvious which one is equal to which one. Since we must name corresponding parts in order, if we name x of the first triangle first, and x corresponds to S, then we must also name S first here and name those corresponding parts in order. Okay. Notice this. This is X and then P. XP corresponds. This side right here corresponds to this side. If you call this one X then P, you have to call this one S then Y. If you were to call this P X, you would have to call this one Y S. Whatever order you named that, you have to name that in the same order, okay? That's important. Everything's lined up every time you write it if they're congruent, okay? Number 11 says if Rx, that's this side, is 5a plus 6, and ZS is 2a plus 27, then find the value of A. Well, we know that Rx is equal to ZS because they're corresponding sides of congruent triangles. And so we could write an equation, and I'm going to wide out some board space here so we can see. And so we could write the equation 5a plus 6 is equal to 2a plus 27. We're going to use the order of operations horseshoe, as we've said, on page 33 of the Algebra 1 textbook. You can find it at www.dballardproductions.com. The way we taught it, we said we're going to see if there's anything we can do to simplify the expression on either side. In the order, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally looking for distributive and combining like terms, and there's nothing we can do to simplify. So we move to the bottom of the issue, which says get the variable that you're on one side of the equal sign, remembering to change the sign when you cross over. So we do that. We get 3a plus 6 is equal to 27. There's nothing else we can do to simplify. The variable is now on one side, so it's time to undo. You undo addition by subtraction. Remember, when you undo, you reverse the order of operations. Sally, Aunt dear, my excuse, please. And so we're going to undo addition by subtraction and get 3a equal 21. We will then undo multiplication by division and get a is equal to 7. Any questions on number 11? A equal 7. Okay? You can do number 13. Angle QEA. QEA is equal to what angle? Well, we know that these angles are special. See? Those are what kind of angles? Vertical angles. So angle QEA is equal to angle WEH. So you got to go back and remember the whole book. We get to doing congruent triangles and all this stuff, and you forget about stuff we learned at the first of the year. So we have to remember stuff from the first of the year. Reason, vertical angles are equal. It says if QA is parallel to WH, QA is parallel to WH. If two lines are parallel, then alternate interior angles are equal, then make a Z. Corresponding angles are equal, then make an F. Same side interior angles are supplementary, they make a C. So those are the conclusions you're looking for. The formal definitions, again, alternate interior angles are two non-adjacent interior angles on opposite sides of the transversal. We recognize they make a letter Z. Corresponding angles are two angles in corresponding positions relative to the two lines. We recognize they make the letter F. Same side interior angles are two interior angles on the same side of the transversal. We recognize they make the letter C. So that's the types of things you're looking for when you see parallel lines. Number 16, it says E is the midpoint of AH. Remember that a midpoint is the point that divides a segment into two equal segments. It says E is the midpoint of AH. So from that, you should get two equal segments. You're going to have the word midpoint. You're going to have the word midpoint. What you get out of it, two equal segments. And so the reason should be definition of a midpoint, because you have the word and what you get out of it. Any questions on that? And then we're going to use the diagram, a compass, a protractor to reach conclusions. Again, your conclusions will be the rules on the next page. Really try to draw these specifically. We're concluding that if all three sides of one triangle are equal to all three sides of another, then they are congruent by side, 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 which is a rule on the next page. So practice drawing. This gives you a visual so that you can actually see the congruency, recognize it mentally in a picture in your mind, and then when you memorize the rules on the next page, you're going to memorize them with understanding. Rote memory with no understanding doesn't last very long, but memory with understanding will. Understanding with no memory does you no good, because how can you use something you don't remember? So we need a combination of memory with understanding, and that's why we have these visual aids as a part of this textbook. Okay? So we have several little discovery things which are leading us into the ways to prove